Today's video is about something called the scarcity loop. We're going to break down why so many people with a good income, a stable job, a healthy savings account, still feel a wave of panic every time they spend money. Or, on the flip side, why some people hold on to every dollar so tightly that they can't even enjoy the life they've built. In this video, we're covering three things. First, we'll look at how this scarcity pattern actually gets programmed into the brain during childhood and what the neuroscience behind it looks like. Second, we'll break down the two very different ways this pattern shows up in adults. Some people hoard, some people spend impulsively. And third, the most important part, I'm going to give you a practical, data-driven framework to actually break this loop and permanently shift your relationship with money. If you've ever thought, I have money, so why doesn't it ever feel like enough? Stick around, because the framework at the end is the real game changer. And if you're into videos that blend psychology and finance in a practical way, go ahead and subscribe, drop a like, and by the end, let me know in the comments which type you relate to more, because that's exactly what we're going to dig into next. Let's get into it. You have a healthy savings account, a stable career. Everything on paper says you're fine. And yet, every time you swipe your card, there's this quiet wave of panic. Or maybe it's the opposite. You can't spend money even when the need is completely legitimate. Every dollar you let go of feels like you're bracing for some emergency that hasn't even happened yet. This isn't a budgeting problem. This is a survival mechanism, one that was installed in your childhood, and it's still running today. In this video, we're going to unpack what the scarcity loop actually is, how it gets permanently wired into your brain, why every budgeting app and every just have more willpower piece of advice fails against it, and most importantly, how to actually break the loop without losing your sense of safety. If you've ever caught yourself thinking, I have the money, so why doesn't it ever feel like enough? This video is for you. Let's get started. Let's start with a small memory. A lot of people carry one specific moment from childhood. Maybe it's watching your parents' faces change at the end of the month. Maybe it's hearing, not now. We don't have the money one too many times. Maybe it's a utility bill sitting on the kitchen counter that nobody wants to open. During childhood, the brain is still developing. And when it repeatedly receives the signal that resources are unpredictable, it makes one simple decision: I need to stay alert. Because if I relax, we go back to struggling. This decision isn't conscious. No child sits down and thinks, I'm going to become hyper-vigilant about money. It gets installed silently, automatically like a background app that never fully closes, whether you're actively using it or not. That's the definition of the scarcity loop, a psychological feedback loop where the brain consistently prioritizes immediate security over long-term growth regardless of what your current reality actually looks like. Now, let's bring this into the context of 2026. Inflation is up, rent keeps climbing, and digital spending has made it so easy to lose money in a single tap. These modern pressures reawaken those old, buried memories. The moment your banking app opens, that same childhood alarm goes off, except this time, the trigger is a grocery bill instead of a utility bill. Which means the problem isn't really about today. Today is just the switch that flips something that was installed a long time ago. Now let's get a little scientific, but in plain language, because this part matters. There's a small region in your brain called the amygdala. Its job is to detect threats, and every time in your life you felt a real shortage of food, of money, of security, your amygdala logged that as a threat and filed it away. Here's the problem. The amygdala doesn't distinguish between a predator and a low balance notification on your credit card. To your amygdala, they're the same thing, a threat to survival. When the amygdala activates, It actually overrides the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking, the prefrontal cortex. This is the part that handles long-term planning, calculation, and questions like, do I actually need this? So when you're standing at the grocery checkout looking at the total, or you're considering investing money if the scarcity loop kicks in, your rational brain can literally go temporarily offline. You're not making decisions from logic anymore. You're making them from survival. From here, this splits into two directions, and these are probably the two patterns you recognize in yourself or someone close to you. These are people who genuinely struggle to spend money, even when they have it. Every purchase comes with guilt. Buying something without a discount feels almost wrong. Investing feels terrifying, because the money is leaving their hands even if it's leaving to grow. These people react in the exact opposite way. When stress or anxiety hits, they spend sometimes without even meaning to, just an overwhelming urge to buy something. And it gives temporary relief. Why? Because every purchase triggers a release of dopamine, a brain chemical that makes you feel good. It creates a sense of control. I can control this feeling of lack. I can have something right now. Both types look completely different on the surface, but the root is identical: fear of scarcity. One avoids it to control it. The other overpowers it to control it. Now here's the real question. If we all know we should budget, track our spending, plan ahead, why is it so hard to actually stick with it? The answer is simple. No spreadsheet, no AI expense tracker can regulate your nervous system. Picture this: you open a budgeting app and see your balance is lower than expected. Your biology treats that as a threat signal, almost identical to spotting a predator. In that moment, the app's notification, the red warning color, the over-budget alert, all of it reactivates the exact same old anxiety. And there's one more thing that makes this even harder: the shame cycle. When you fail a budget, meaning you spent past your limit, it's not just disappointment you feel, it's shame. There's something wrong with me. I always do this. That shame doesn't motivate you. If anything, it reinforces the scarcity mindset even further. Because in that moment of shame, your brain learns the same old lesson again. Money isn't something I can control. I need to be even more afraid of it. So it becomes a loop: anxiety, impulsive, or hoarding behavior, shame, more anxiety. This is exactly why simply managing numbers isn't enough. The real solution isn't in a spreadsheet, it's in nervous system regulation. That means teaching your brain, I am safe right now first, because that's the only state in which rational financial decisions actually become possible. So, if budgeting alone isn't enough, what actually works? The first concept is this: your financial safety minimum. This is the specific amount of money that's enough to make your lizard brain, that old survival instinct, actually relax. This number is different for everyone. For some people, 2 months of expenses set aside is enough. For others, it's 4 months. What matters is that it's a defined, achievable number, because until how much is enough is clearly defined, your brain will always say more. Once that safety minimum is set, holding excess cash beyond it becomes a completely different kind of problem. Why? Because when you look at 2026 market data, holding too much cash compared to inflation means that money is quietly losing value over time. The money you think you're keeping safe is actually slowly shrinking in terms of purchasing power. Sitting in cash out of fear is statistically more dangerous than taking calculated risk. It's just a slower, quieter kind of danger, which is why it doesn't feel that way. This is where we shift from internal healing to practical action. We don't just stop at understanding our feelings, we translate that understanding into a new financial framework. Now let's get into the practical framework, 3 things you can start today. Whenever you feel the urge to make a non-essential purchase, ask yourself, is this actually necessary? Or am I just feeling stressed right now? If you're not sure, delay that purchase for 72 hours. If it still feels just as necessary after 72 hours, go ahead and buy it. But in most cases, this pause alone gives you enough clarity to tell whether a purchase was value-based or a survival-based impulse. Stop thinking of yourself as a survivor of scarcity. Start thinking of yourself as an architect of generational wealth. This isn't just a motivational line when you actually shift your identity. Your decisions naturally start aligning with that new identity. A survivor protects. An architect builds. The more financial decisions you have to make manually, the higher the chance the scarcity loop gets triggered. So let small amounts get invested automatically, even tiny amounts count. Over time, this retrains your brain to see money not as a finite resource you have to guard, but as a renewable resource that keeps growing without needing constant vigilance. 20. So remember, if it feels like nothing is ever enough, no matter what your bank balance says, that's not a personal failure. It's a loop that got installed in childhood, and one you can now consciously start to break. This won't happen overnight. But every time you use the 72-hour rule, every time you define your own safety minimum, you're weakening that old survival pattern and building a new wealth pattern in its place. If this video resonated with you, drop a comment, are you the hoarder or the revenge spender? And if you'd like a follow-up video with a detailed strategy for each type specifically, hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.